Hey, it's Joe Crump. I've got another zero-down structure hypothetical situation to help you understand how zero-down structures work and to help you understand what kind of offers you can make on properties depending on where they're at, what their price range is, what kind of market they're in, what the situation is of the seller, and all these things that I'm giving you, the information I'm giving you about the price and what they're asking. And you have to ask the seller these questions, and we have a list of questions that you have to ask that is part of the mentor program. It's actually in the Auto Marketer as well, so you can go to the Auto Marketer and get the training to do this. But hopefully these videos will give you enough so you can actually get started, and you can start actually making offers on properties that you find in Craigslist. Very simple process here. So, and the Auto Marketer actually brings you leads, and you can make offers to people in the same way to all these people that you're finding on Craigslist. They don't all have to be lease option deals. You can do the subject to, you do the multi-mortgage, land contracts, assignable cash deals in addition to the lease option stuff. So keep that in mind. You don't have to do only one type of deal. At the beginning, when you're just getting started, it probably makes sense to do just one kind of deal because it's easier to get your head around just lease options. And that's why I have my mentor students focus on lease options to get started. But it doesn't take long after you've made 5, 10, 20, 30, 50 offers to maybe start thinking about, okay, what if we did this subject to? What if I gave these people other options? Then they could try it different ways and see if something like that would work for them. So that's what we're doing here. So this particular property, hypothetically, is asking $650,000. The value on it is only $375,000 because they're in a market that crashed. So they bought it for $650,000, and they have a mortgage on it for $650,000, and the only way they can sell it is if they get $650,000 for it. So it's a difficult situation to be in, right? But it's only worth $375,000. We saw this happen a lot in California during 2007, 2008, 2009, and we did deals to solve this problem. I'm going to show you how to solve this problem. The PITI on this, principal, interest, taxes, and insurance, is $3,800 a month. It rents for only $2,500 a month in the property, and it's in good condition. So it's rentable right now, but the most he's going to get is $2,500 a month. So if he gets a tenant in there, it's going to cost him $1,300 a month negative cash flow. He's going to have to come out of pocket $1,300 a month in order to take a buyer that you bring him if you do it on a lease option. But is it better to pay $1,300 a month, or is it better to pay $3,800 a month, which is what his full mortgage is? Now, he's in another difficult situation, whereas he cannot allow this property to go into foreclosure. If his credit was bad, having bad credit wasn't a problem, then he could just let it go into foreclosure. He could even live there for a while and do that. And sometimes that makes sense for people. They just, okay, I'm going to stop making my payments. Hopefully I'm going to get 6 months or a year or maybe even 2 years of before they take that property from me. I'm going to get free rent during that time, and I'm going to do it that way until they finally take the property back. But this guy's not in that situation. He's got to make his payments because, let's say he works for the government, and he's got security clearance, and he can't have bad credit, or he works for the military, and they don't like that, or he is in the corporate fast track, and he knows that whenever he jumps jobs, they always check their credit, and he doesn't want to have a credit ding on his stuff. Now he's got high income, that's why he's able to afford a more expensive property, and he wants to keep that credit clean. So it's worth it to him to be able to do that. So it's just a matter of how much pain he's going to have to do in order to keep that credit clean. He can do $3,800 a month, or he can do $1,300 a month if he puts a lease option tenant in there. Now, we're not going to buy a property like this as a subject to for ourselves. We're going to help him solve his problem and get his payment down to $1,300 instead of $3,800 by putting a lease option tenant in there. So we're going to go put it on the market for, say, $675. Way over what it's worth. We're going to do a 5-year lease option instead of a 3 because we want the values to come back. We know that values typically come back over that period of time. And we find a buyer who's able to get into this property for $2,500 a month plus $10,000 out of their pocket. That's a great deal for somebody who wants to buy a property, and potentially the values would go up above what it's worth and they could actually make money in the future. Or if it doesn't go up enough, then the seller might be willing to come to closing with some money to sell it. Or maybe the buyer could come up with some of the money to make it work as well at that time. But what matters is right now, and right now making those payments to the seller, and right now to the buyer being able to have a property that they can move into that's nice, that they can bring their friends home and say, this is my house. And they're going to be able to get into it for a payment that would be less than what it would cost them to buy the property. So the $2,500 would be less than if they had to buy that property right now for cash, and they don't have to come up with a down payment of $100,000. They only have to come up with a down payment of $10,000. So it makes sense for the seller, makes sense for the buyer, and it makes sense for you because you're going to make 10 grand on the deal. And you might even raise, if you raised it by 25,000, you might be able to make 25 on it. You know, maybe get 10 up front, and maybe get 10 or 15 as a monthly payment, as a promissory note over time, over the next 2 or 3, 4 or 5 years. Break it up so that it's still reasonable for the buyer to pay that to you. All right, so a good way to solve a problem with a property that's upside down. All right, hope that helps.